Alright folks, wrap it up. He's already making a video complaining about the game. Hello guys, Termex here, and welcome back to another Throne of Liberty video. And today we're going to talk about the state of PvP and kind of my personal thoughts on it. I almost have 200 hours on Throne of Liberty at this point, and I have some things to say. I have a few things to say that are kind of getting on my nerves and just some general things that I believe we should probably talk about. The first of which being, in Throne and Liberty, I feel like more than most MMOs, this MMO is so consequential when it comes to taking any root, any stun, anything that just binds your character to not being able to move. I feel like it's the most consequential MMO in that aspect. And I think when it comes to roots, there's two sides of this, right? There's two sides of getting stunned for 8 seconds. The first side of it is it's not very fun. It's not fun when you're a ranged squishy player and a bow could root you for 3 seconds, or a sword dashes to you and then stuns you for 5-6 seconds, and you just can't play the game. You can't pop an ability on Crossbow Dagger or even Staff Dagger. There's no special ability that gets you out of it or gives you a second chance. It's kind of just, if it's a 1v1 and it happens, you kind of just have to hope you survive through it. Yeah, that's basically how that goes. But alternatively, when we look at the classes that can root you, other than Longbow, I think Longbow is kind of a weird one. It's kind of weird that Longbow could root you from range and then just lay into you at range. That's kind of, I don't know the design projection with that, but it was a little weird. When it comes to like Greatsword Sword, which is the best build in PvP right now. Don't let anyone tell you different. You can even ask the people that have thousands of hours on the Korean servers. The best build in Throne and Liberty is Greatsword and Sword because of CC control. The fact that you could crowd control anybody in the game with a few button clicks to the point where they can't move, and all your people, or just in a 1v1, you could just lay your ability combo into them, and it could be buffed with certain gear pieces once people start gearing up a little more, that it is very, very annoying and very overpowered, to the point where people are even memeing on the game calling it Sword and Liberty, and that's just, it's kind of funny. But when we look at that perspective, you got to look at every other role that isn't that role. If anyone's playing the game and they get stun locked for 5 seconds with a staff, a crossbow, a dagger, a healer's probably the only one I don't agree with, because healers are invincible when in a 1v1, so even if they are stun locked, it's not going to matter too much unless they're silenced as well. Then obviously they're going to die in probably 2.4 seconds. But I think the very dynamic of Throne and Liberty is this is a mass scale PvP game. There's sleep bombs that literally stun groups of 50 to 100 players at a time, and everybody's sleeping for 4 to 5 seconds, and that's just part of the game. And I think the only reason that it's a huge problem when it comes to smaller scale is because lack of counterplay. When somebody sleep bombs 50 people in large scale, it takes a lot of coordination, a lot of damage, and a lot of experience to actually execute off of doing such a play. But when it's small scale, like 1v1, 2v2, or even the 3v3 arenas, especially 3v3 arena, having one person on the other team that has the ability to root people and stun them and just lock them into that stun, it doesn't matter how much better the player that's stunned is. When they can't attack you, they can't run, and they just can't survive. But it's very, very not fun, and I see a lot of people, especially in my guild and friends, complaining that PvP is just not fun, because when you're in 3v3s and you get rooted, you can't really play the game. And it looks like right here it's called a purification remedy. Kind of, if you ever played New World, it's kind of like a cleanse pot, and I want to bring up the cleansing system. It's not only this remedy that will cleanse yourself, there's also other abilities. I do believe Tome, the Tome skill book, I believe it does have a cleanse effect on a teammate. So when we look at these remedies, these are going to be important. And if you looked at any of these resources on the auction house, they are expensive to get. Not as much as the natural essence and all that kind of stuff, but these right here on the auction house, for some reason, they're going for a bunch just because of the remedy and what it does. And if you don't know, this purification remedy will remove any CC on a 2-minute cooldown, which makes the whole counterplay a whole lot better. And going into PvP, it gives those players a chance in small scale to actually compete. If we're talking 3v3 and ranked 3v3, that's kind of a different demon, because in 3v3 you're not allowed to use these, you're not allowed to use healing, you're not allowed to use anything. So I would argue in 3v3 it's more of a team-based effort, to where if you don't have a tank, healer, and DPS, don't play it in ranked at all. If you're playing 3 DPS in ranked 3v3, you're not gonna win, you're not gonna have fun. And I'm just being honest, I'm not being toxic, I'm not gatekeeping it, I've always kept things real on the channel. You're not gonna win 3v3s as DPS if you're going against actual people with a healer tank DPS, because I feel like that's how it's supposed to be played. There's 3 classes in the game, 3v3s exist. You should have one of each role for optimal playing and optimal being able to actually counter other people, because if you have 3 DPSs, you guys are going to get squished. You guys are just going to get CC locked, counter to death. But I want to make this video to point out that there are negatives in the PvP system, but there's also some positives when it comes to countering certain elements of the PvP system. But at the end of the day, I still think Greatsword Sword is probably the most broken, easy to use combo in PvP. And on the flip side of things, coming from asking people in my guild that are indeed Greatsword Sword users, without that stun lock, they really aren't much. It's just like cool anime jujitsu like sword attacks and then spins. There's not much to their kit damage wise other than the stuns, but when they do pull those stuns off, they're probably the best class in the game, hands down. The next thing I want to talk about in PvP is a bug that some people may have experienced, and that is the HUD bug. I like to customize my HUD to the point where it's something more convenient for myself and it just comes off a whole lot more clean. And I notice a lot in this game, when you reset your game or teleport, or when you die in 3v3s, die in PvP, wipe in PvE, you will just have your HUD randomly be everywhere, and the only way to fix that is click escape, edit HUD, and then exit out of it. Very, very annoying. I don't know if my rhythm for the tism is showing, but it makes me uncomfortable, and my HUD isn't where my HUD's supposed to be. And another thing, Asmongold actually mentioned this on his video, the mount system, or lack of mount system, the morph system is something that I think needs to be maybe reevaluated, or maybe just small tweaks to make it more fair. And by that I say, there's a lot of mechanics. The flying mechanics suck. The grapple mechanic sucks. Especially, I've been doing Temple of Slaughter 30+ runs, and I finally got my crossbows. I'll make a video on that soon for all you guys. It rolled with undead damage, so kind of sucks. But the thing I want to say is when it comes to the grappling, oh my gosh, the grappling is so bad. You'll use it, you'll bug through the floor, you'll use it, you can't fly, you spam space, you can't morph into your bird. It has to be the worst movement system I've probably ever seen in my life, and I hate it so much. I do not like it. I think it's dumb. I don't mind if it was a refined system, then okay, cool. But other than that, I really don't enjoy it way too much. And when it comes to the on-ground morph, it's just not satisfying to me. When I'm running around with my character and you want to sprint, you kind of want to see your character sprint in action, charge into combat, but you just see like a bunch of random mounts. And I wouldn't mind the mounts. It's just when you're in PvP especially, I hate so much when you're attacking somebody, you're winning the fight, and they just run away on their mount, and you have to just follow them, chase them, then they lead you into 4 of their teammates, and then it just makes for a very unsatisfying PvP loop. Now, I do think the mounts should be in PvP, but not in the way they're currently implemented. If you get attacked or engage in PvP combat, similar to New World, you shouldn't be able to use your morph until you're outside of the combat. If you're playing a tanky class that isn't high mobility, you shouldn't have the same mobility as the people that sacrifice survivability to improve on their mobility just because you have a morph. I think it kind of takes away from the weapons and the class quote-unquote system when any class has the similar amount of mobility via the morph system. The point of these classes, in my opinion, should be you play to the weapon strengths. If Crossbow Dagger gives you mobility, you should be rewarded for your mobility playing the build. If Greatsword Sword gives you a lot of engagement and a lot of tankiness, you should be rewarded for playing as such, and having the morph system in its current state in PvP just doesn't make any class rewarding, in my opinion, because every class just could use a mount, run away, use a mount, catch up to you, and you don't really get that satisfying feeling of using your class to its strengths and its weaknesses. But that's just my hot take. I feel like morph should not have any place in PvP once you enter combat. Sure, when you're leading up to the PvP, I don't care, but if you enter combat, there should be the same 30-second cooldown, or maybe even 20-second cooldown, because I mean, if you click escape and you go to unstuck, that takes 30 seconds. Maybe just make it 20 seconds, or if any of your abilities are on cooldown, you can't summon your morph, or if you recently engaged in combat, you can't use your morph. You know, little things like that would make it a whole lot better of an experience, in my humbled opinion, to have the players play organically and not just crutch off of the fact that mounts exist. But other than that, when it comes to the larger scale of PvP, I think large scale isn't too bad. It's just right now we're in a heavy sleep meta because sleep, the other team can't play the game, and if you guys are coordinated well enough, then you could actually use that to your strength, and large guilds are already taking advantage of this. But you guys let me know in the comments. I'm only talking from the perspective of my personal experience as Crossbow Dagger and from my guild mates' experiences. So if I go into my guild, a lot of my guild members here, we have a bunch of different classes. We have a lot of Crossbow Daggers that are just like me, but we have a lot of tanks. We have a lot of longbows. We have a lot of healers. Well, we have a lot of Greatsword Swords. We have a bunch of Greatsword Swords, actually, if you scroll down into here. So I I've gotten the perspective from a bunch of different people in my guild, and we've all talked about this. We've all talked about what we feel like the current state of PvP is, but that's just something for some perspective on the current state of the PvP meta in Throne and Liberty. If you guys have similar experience or different experience with these type of things, let me know in the comments down below. I do read every single one of your comments, and I do appreciate all the love and support on the videos. If you can, hit the like button, as it does spread out my content to more people in the community, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss out on another video from me, guys. Stay safe, and I'll see you all later.